The Denver Nuggets selected Chris Herron of Fresno State.
Today we welcome Chris Herron. His courage, humility, and perseverance is remarkable. And he has a gift, and that gift is to help people, and that is why he's here today. Please give a warm welcome to my good friend, Chris Herron.
A former high school basketball star is in trouble with the law. Chris Herron made a name for himself at Durfee High School in Fall River before playing at Fresno State and going pro. On Friday, Herron was arrested in Portsmouth on drug charges. Investigators claim heroin residue was found in his car.
I remember getting called to assemblies like this to listen to some 35-year-old man talk to me about substance abuse. And I remember saying to myself, this is a joke. Why am I here? I'll never be that guy. Big-time basketball players, been in Rolling Stone magazine, Sports Illustrated, NBA, Boston Celtics, Denver Nuggets, and I'm on a street corner hawking jewelry. I've had 4 overdoses. I have 7 felonies on my record. The only thing I remember is glass hitting me and a police officer grabbing me. They found me 2 miles away, overdosed in my vehicle, crashed on the side of the road. When I came through, I was in handcuffs, in the back of an ambulance, on my way to the hospital, and then on my way to jail. He said, homeboy, you've been dead for 30 seconds. I'm not the typical speaker. I'm not gonna come in here and talk to you about ways to reach your goals and all that kind of stuff. I come in here and I tell you my nightmare. I tell you the story that I lived. In 1994, I had that opportunity to sit in a gymnasium like this and pay attention. And today I would give anything to get back to 1994 and listen.
Herren with the alley-oop. And that brought the house down. Herren again. 2 more.
When he was 16 years old, he was the future, he was the hope. And I'm sure he felt that. You couldn't be around it and not feel it.
I grew up in a city called Fall River, Massachusetts, and it's a city very similar to Friday Night Lights of football.
Fall River was this place where high school basketball had been big for 40 years, 50 years. It's a mill town, and it was kind of a dying mill town. And basketball was one of the few things that gave Fall River a sense of self, a sense to feel good about.
Chrissy comes along, and we never had anybody that talented. No one, not even close. I mean, some days I say to my assistant coach, do you ever see anything this good in your life?
Chris Herron has that look on his face behind the back. Hands it off.
Chris at that particular time was as good a player at the high school level that I think ever can be imagined. This kid was beyond special.
He was tough, hard-nosed, could shoot the basketball, could pass the basketball, had very good size for a guard, and he was a tough kid. When you come from Durfee High School, you gotta be a tough kid.
It was evident from minute 1 that there was this tremendous amount of pressure on him. He was supposed to be a great player. He was a great player. In Fall River, that came with a price tag.
we have the amazing privilege and honor today of hearing before us the life story of Chris Herron. Chris, as you just saw, played for the NBA, played for the Boston Celtics. He played for the Denver Nuggets. He today, Baruch Hashem, has a family of his own. He has 3 children. When he was playing high school ball, your guys' age, when he was playing high school basketball, he was ranked number 9, the number 9 player in the entire country. And you saw in the film a high school player that was incomparable, unmatched. He has been featured on shows on ESPN. And Chris told me before that he just learned yesterday that his documentary, his life story, was nominated yesterday for 2 Emmy Awards for Best Documentary. He's the author of a book. He wrote a book called Basketball Junkie, which was listed as a bestseller throughout the country. He has lectured, he has spoken, he has given of his soul and his story. This past year alone, to somewhere between 85,000 and 100,000 students all across the country. I had the opportunity before the program started to talk to Chris. He is an amazing human being. His courage, his warmth, and his honesty are really, really incredible. On behalf of Magen David Yeshiva High School, I want to thank the SAFE Foundation, and particularly Ike Dweck, who's standing in the back, for arranging this. I thank SAFE and everybody associated with SAFE for bringing Chris here today. This whole program would not have happened without the great and wonderful and noble things that SAFE does. At this point, without any further ado, it is an honor for me to present to you Chris Herron.
It's good to be here. It's an honor to be here. I'm extremely grateful anytime I step in front of a group of kids where I have an opportunity to share my story. I do this for a few reasons. I do this because when I first got sober, someone told me you can't keep it unless you give it away. I do this because I was told early on in my recovery that if I can get out in front of one kid, that's a huge, huge accomplishment. The other reason I do this is because I've been in your seat. I've walked into a room like this. I've sat in a room like this and listened to a man like me tell this pitch. Tell this story, and I remember sitting in my seat saying, my dad's a politician, my mom works in corporate America, we have a summer house, we own 2 other houses, never, never, never will it happen to me. That's impossible. What that man is talking about right now will cross into my yard. So I sat in rooms like this and didn't pay attention and never thought it would be me. In my high school years, I started making decisions like smoking weed and drinking. I thought that's where it would end. Unfortunately, it didn't. My dream was to be an NBA basketball player. As I said in the beginning, I reached number 9 in the country in high school. I played in the McDonald's All-American game. I was being recruited by Duke, Kentucky, Florida. Any school in the country, I had my pick. When it was time to pick a school at 18 years old, I decided to go to Boston College. I was Massachusetts Player of the Year 3 years in a row. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to represent Massachusetts, so I picked the local school. When I stepped on campus, Sports Illustrated called and said, we're going to put you on it's between you, Allen Iverson, Ray Allen, and Felipe Lopez for the cover of our magazine. So I went down, I took pictures with those 4 guys. 2 weeks later, Sports Illustrated came out. Felipe Lopez, who played at St. John's, got the cover, and I got the inside fold, the full-page picture. The night it came out, Boston College had a big celebration. All athletes came to the gymnasium to see this magazine, to celebrate the fact that one of their athletes was in there. After that night, my coach walked up to me and said, tomorrow night I want you to be in the same place at 7:30 to listen to a man, a former NFL football player, talk about substance abuse. This man played for the New York Giants. He's a BC alum. He struggled with some of the choices he made with drugs and alcohol, so I want you to come and listen. I looked at my coach and I laughed in his face and I said, Coach, come on, man. Don't waste my time with that. I'm not going to sit in the gym and listen to some poor, pathetic man tell his story, how he blew everything. So he told me, if you don't go, you're going to be suspended the first game. So I walked into this thing, I sat in the top left corner, I listened to him tell his story, I had the nerve to talk. I had the nerve to laugh. I had the nerve to judge. And I sat there, and when the assembly ended, how ironic it was. I walked out of that assembly, I walked down to my room. When I got to my room, I opened my dorm room door. When I opened the door, my roommate, who was a baseball player, was sitting at the desk with another freshman girl. As soon as I opened the door, they shifted their body a little bit, and I could tell that they were hiding something. So I walked over, and when I walked over, I looked over their shoulder, expecting to see some butt. What I saw was a pile of cocaine. As soon as I saw that cocaine at 18 years old, I panicked. Because cocaine was Len Bias to me. Len Bias was the #2 pick in the NBA draft by the Boston Celtics, who went out on draft night to celebrate the fact he was drafted, smoked some coke, his heart exploded, and Len Bias died on draft night. Len Bias would be the equivalent of LeBron James today. So when I saw that cocaine, I thought of death. I turned around and I started walking out, and all of a sudden I heard that girl's voice, 18 years old, say, "Chris, where you going? Come back. It's not going to kill you, I promise. Sit down with me." Those words by that 18-year-old girl spun me right back around. I walked back in the room. I sat at the desk. She said, "Just put a little bit on your finger, put a little bit on your gums. You'll see your mouth's going to get numb. Nothing's going to happen." I did that. 3 minutes later, she chopped up 3 lines of coke. She pushed them out. She handed me a $1 bill. I'm telling you right now from the bottom of my heart, I looked at that cocaine and I said to myself, I'm going to do this once and I'm never going to do it again. I grabbed the $1 bill, I did the line of cocaine, I walked out the room. I had no idea that that one line of cocaine was going to take 14 years. It was going to take 14 years to put down that $1 bill. The next day I got called into the training room to take a drug test. All Division I athletes are subjected to random drug testing. I failed that first drug test miserably for cocaine and marijuana. In my first game at BC, I was going up for a layup. My legs got caught up. When my legs got caught up, I hit the deck and broke my wrist. I went in for surgery the next morning. My freshman year was finished, and without basketball in my life, for the first time, I jumped into substance abuse. In my 3rd month, I failed my 2nd test. And in my 4th month, as an 18-year-old on campus at Boston College, I failed my 3rd and final test. They called me into the office and they said, "We don't care about Sports Illustrated. We don't care that you scored 2,000 points in high school. We don't care about McDonald's All-Americans, Chris. We care about our campus. And we feel that you're a danger to this place. So we're asking you to leave. We have security outside. Security's going to escort you back to your room. You're going to pack your bags and you're going to be off campus by the end of this afternoon." 4 months earlier, I walked into a room like this, man, and made fun of the guy. 4 months later, I'm living his story. 2 months after that, I got a phone call from a school in California, Jerry Tarkanian in Fresno State, and he said, "I want to give you a second chance." That's all I needed to hear at 18 years old. I jumped on a plane, I flew to Fresno, California. When I got to Fresno, California, Jerry Tarkanian set up a group of people, a group of men in recovery who mentored me, who surrounded me and kept me sober for that year. That year, I averaged 18 points a game. I was a first-team All-WAC. I'm talking to NBA teams. They're telling me, just come back to school for 1 more year and then leave your junior year. The problem with my junior year is my ego got big, and I said, I don't need these guys anymore. I want to kick it with my homeboys. I don't want to kick it with these old guys. I don't want to kick it with the guys that are keeping me in line. I want to go back in the nightclubs. So I did that. I had just got done playing Duke University, who was #1 in the country. They had 9 NBA basketball players. I had 30 points against Duke. After that game, the NBA teams flew into town, flew into Fresno, and met with my president of my university, my athletic director, and they said, "Tell your kid he's going to be a first-round draft pick, guaranteed 15 to 26. He falls between 15 and 26 in the NBA draft. He's going to make 1.5 to 1.8 million for 5 years, guaranteed money." The president of my university called me into his office right after that meeting and said, "Congratulations, Chris, you got your wish. You can leave school early. All you got to do is promise me one thing. You won't fail another drug test. Because if you fail another drug test, there's going to be consequences." 2 weeks after that meeting, I walked out. I walked out of that meeting, and 2 weeks after, I was playing against UMass Amherst on CBS, national TV, nationwide. 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon.